Welcome. You're listening to 27 Degrees SAG. I'm your host, Kim Lalo, and I have a wonderful guest with me this evening. I know, it's been one of those days, and I know you've had them too out there with all of these things happening, the full moon, the comet, we've got Mercury's going into Aquarius. So we've got this big push of Aquarius. And wherever it is in your chart, I'm sure it's finally starting to get a heartbeat there and starting to go. And it brings out all of your uniqueness. It brings out the best that you can be because, you are so unique. And when you are a perfectionist like we are, sometimes we may not live up to that great profile that we think we've been having. So there's a little twists, turns, surprises, bumps in the way. But what I want to do is I would love to read you a little bit about my wonderful guest this evening. Her name is Amanda Dodd. And if I could just move this, oh my gosh, nothing's working for me tonight. Okay, hold on, everybody. She is a fabulous girl. And if I could just read it, it would be great. Oh no. Okay. Well, she is a wonderful clinical hypnotist. She's a naturally gifted medium. She also has been doing many modalities, including emotion codes that we're going to be discussing tonight. She is one of these people. When I worked with Amanda, in her own quiet way, she gets in there, she gets to the root of the problem, and then she ends up doing her work and blowing you away. And tonight we are going to all learn about emotion codes. Now, there have been so many requests for it, and she has been studying this for a while. So let's bring her on. Put your hands together for Amanda Dodd. Hello, darling. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm scattered a little bit, as you can tell. Oh,
Oh, you're not the only one. I've been feeling it too, past couple of days. Yeah.
oh, that's reassuring. It's one of those things. I've been so blessed by having wonderful people in my inner circle that I just invite them on to my show, and we have a great little gathering with our tea and whatever we have. But um, learning about the one we're focusing on, emotion codes, I was wondering, being on a spiritual journey, what drew you to emotion codes?
I got really lucky. I almost actually maybe would not have found it, but the place that I did my Reiki training had this really beautiful holistic doctor. She was such a sweet woman, and she was so enthralled by it that she'd keep bringing little bits of information to class. And I was like, what is that? Like, I want to know more. I've always been Cancer Sun, always been very emotional and always loved to dive deep into the emotions. So it almost felt like it was meant for me to just dive in and find.
Yeah. Wow. So with this particular mentor,
Mhm.
um, explain to us exactly what it is. There have been so many people gaining fantastic results from this. They've been after, taking away some blockages, or knowing that there's something not quite right, and I should be doing more at this point in my life, or I should be, not having to go through that again. And then everybody said, oh, wow, try emotion codes. And, I know when you worked with me, you got right the problem when I was a child, and that was just such a release for me. I have to thank you again for your work. So, explain to everyone what it is and how you set it up.
Well, I don't actually set it up. It is a neat little system that was created by a chiropractic doctor named Dr. Bradley Nelson. I don't recall exactly when it was created, but I began in 2012. And I believe it was fairly new still. And essentially what he was doing was, with working with so many chiropractic clients, he was starting to see like a lot of trends and patterns happening. So people with certain weaknesses in various muscles or issues were having certain emotions come up. He started to chart them. And in doing that, that is how he made the emotion code chart that we know today.
Wow.
And so as you look at the emotion code chart, there are two columns, but then the rows, each one has an organ or associated body part. And so the concept of emotion code as a whole is that everything is energy, and that includes emotions. Now, I don't know if you've heard this, but emotions are energy in motion because they're meant to go through, they're meant to just pass through as messengers. But part of what happens is we feel something too intensely, or we try to avoid something too intensely, and it gets stuck in our energetic system. Now,
Oh,
if you know that likes attract with energy, if you're holding any emotion, let's just, for example, say, let's work with anxiety. If a person has an experience of anxiety and they were perhaps maybe too little to understand, maybe they were picking up on anxiety from a loved one, because we can also catch emotions. Some of the emotion and blockages that we have actually aren't even ours. So a bit later, we can talk about inherited trapped emotions. And
wow.
that's fascinating,
Oh, yeah.
right? So say you've got an instance or two of anxiety. Now, what happens is it lodges in the energetic fields. Over time, those fields begin to warp. The concept of likes attract means you're more likely to attract more installations in your life that draw in that same particular vibration.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Um, so when you have an emotion, is it first by thought and then emotion, or is it emotion first and then the thought?
They don't teach that in emotion code. That I'm familiar with because of hypnotherapy and coaching. It's the thought first. And then what happens is we make meaning about the thought, and then the emotion happens.
Oh, okay. I get it. So when this particular chiropractor, started kind of his work and noticing, oh, there's got to be something, there's trapped here, something's there. And he came up with a chart of what it is. I mean, how many emotions do we really have?
Okay, he does have a set number. I haven't actually counted them
Oh, okay.
after all these years. But it looks to me like each box has about 4 or 5. 5 per box. And there are 2 columns with 6 rows. 12
Okay.
times 5. I'm terrible at math.
Okay. So,
12
yeah.
times 5 is what we have, and that's what he'd considered the most boiled down emotions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Um,
are there specific emotions that, we consider, let's just say we consider, um, when we have emotion, we would consider that to be trauma?
there are some. There are also some emotions like overjoy. Have you ever been so ecstatic that you were just brimming and bubbling over and you didn't know what to do with it? That's overjoy. That could
Yeah.
also get stuck.
Oh, okay.
Energy, right? So whether it's a joyful or pleasant emotion, or what some people call negative emotion, it doesn't matter. Both can become trapped. In my opinion, there really are no negative emotions. There are no positive emotions. They are just emotions. They're just messengers for us to be aware of. Okay, now I know. Let me make some choices.
Oh, okay. All right. So, they're little indicators of some clarity coming through. Now, how long can these emotions get stuck in your body? Like forever?
Well, as I mentioned, there are inherited trapped emotions. Now, an inherited trapped emotion can come from our ancestors the same way that we pass down DNA. So when you look at like Dr. Bruce Lipton's work and how the cell can take on, and then there's, the role of genetics. So we can actually pass on inherited trapped emotions. So if you look at people who've had family members who'd survived in Auschwitz or some of those larger big traumas in the collective, they do actually tend to pass down some of that as well. Now, the
Wow.
beautiful thing about emotion code is you can heal forward as well as backwards. So, when I'm working with a client, not only are we resolving it for the client, if it's inherited, we're going back however many generations that we need to clear it, as well as forward for their kids and their kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? It's kind of a bit of a quantum healing modality, and I don't think it gets enough notoriety for what it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, what's the difference between emotion codes
Mhm.
and then quantum hypnosis? What's the difference between those?
I would say, just because I am that hypnosis junkie that I am, I would say they're similar in that they both work with the subconscious mind. And that's why when we're navigating the emotion code, we're muscle testing, because that's the quickest way to drop into the subconscious and say, hey, what do you have going on? Tell me your story. Now,
Wow.
in terms of quantum, I believe absolutely. And I don't think people look at the emotion code that way, but I think it does have that potential to create ripples through time and to change timelines.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I'm kind of looking at this and thinking to myself, there's so many let's just say traumatic things or shifts in life or um uh, just things you have to get used to. And really to release a lot of these trapped emotions
Mhm.
that are in the body, is it necessary to do body work, or is it necessary just to go into like the subconscious kind, or
Yeah.
do you just make people aware of it and then they zero in? What's the process of the work?
So there is a secondary modality I should mention. After the emotion code, which has a bit more to it, he also created the body code. And the body code includes a whole lot more to it. And some of those will actually let you know, oh, this person needs chiropractic, this person needs massage, this person is ungrounded, or whatever else they may have going on. It could be something like a parasite. So they can actually get very, very specific. The emotion code specifically, it's just the emotions. And I feel like the large part of what makes this so effective is we're taking from the subconscious, we're bringing it to consciousness, and then the client is having awareness and they're getting that insight. And then they process it.
So do you hypnotize people when you work on them?
I don't, although I have actually played with the emotion code in hypnosis. That's just a me thing who loves to explore. Typically, a standard emotion code session is not needed. You just invite the client to be present. Some people like to do their muscle testing in person, so they're actually working with the client. I tend to do most of my work via distance, as you well know, because we've always been in different states.
Yeah.
I tend to actually love just working with either a pendulum or a sway test. And I recommend this to clients for doing their own self care because it's like training wheels for intuition. And I actually really developed my clairaudience very strongly as a result of doing the emotion code.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that I could really bring into my intuition expedition class and workout that we do every well, actually it's every other Tuesday here in Palm Coast at the Indigo Door. I'll just put a plug there. Anyone that wants to come in. So when you're working on let's just say your muscle testing, can you kind of lead us through what how to do muscle testing the right way, the correct way?
There are a lot of techniques, and I definitely don't know them all. I have one mentor in my life. She loves to do the ring test, which is you take your two fingers just like this and you kind of loop them. Yeah, I think yours is maybe a little more visible, but you loop them and then you have the intention to do your testing. And then as you are testing, the strongest one is the one that's going to give you the answer. So that's one form. There's also the sway test, which is usually what I teach clients because it's just the easiest, the most effective. And for that one, you can do it anywhere. It's really discreet. You could be in the grocery store discerning if you need a certain supplement, if a food is going to work for you, and just be doing that in your body. And so the sway test, you are standing in a very grounded, aligned way, typically standing, but you get the idea. And so shoulders back down, aligned, and then you want to bring the question to your mind or think of something positive. So something that clients often do is I get them to test their name. So you'll say, my name is Kimla, my name is Kimla, my name is Kimla. Notice how the body moves. Do you feel a pull forward or a pull backward? Then you test the opposite. So then you would say, my name is Amanda, my name is Amanda, my name is Amanda. Notice what your body wants to do. It's the subconscious answering. And that's why it works, whether it is the sway test or the ring test or the pendulum or any other kind of muscle testing that you like.
Wow. Okay. So I knew a girl, and what she did is she always put her hands behind her back. Was that the ring test she was doing, or?
No, because the ring test, typically people do it frontward. So it's, again, you're asking that question. But when I'm beginning a session, I start out with actually creating connection. So because I do most of my sessions proxy, I ask the client to connect first. I have that intention, and then I test to see if connection is in fact made.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then we begin. Yeah.
And so do you go through their whole life, like when they were born, or do you begin when they are, being carried by their mother, or where exactly do you start?
Well, a lot of people like to come for a very specific reason. Something that happens within the emotion code is the possibility of having a heart wall. A heart wall consists of a grouping of trapped emotions. And as you know, when we have something in our energy field, it can begin to distort the energy if it's been there for a long time. Just to answer Maria Morales's question, she'd asked, so these emotions that are trapped, can they resolve into physical conditions? They absolutely can, because they warp the energy field. So anything that is in our energy does eventually manifest into the physical. So as we remove the trapped emotions, we're unwarping the fields. And that's what makes the change. We change it energetically first.
Oh, okay.
It comes into the physical. And then I went off on a tangent and I lost myself. That's what happened. There's just so much. But so like a heart wall, someone might come in and say, hey, I'm noticing that when I'm trying to connect with people, it's not really working. I don't feel like people are seeing me. They're not hearing me. I'm not getting the level of intimacy that I really want. And so we'll actually test for a heart wall. For someone who comes in for pain, I would then look for the specific trapped emotions that are tied to that pain. But if someone was just coming in and they were unsure, because oftentimes I do these at a fair and we don't do the whole session, we just do a quick 10 minutes. I take whatever is coming up for them in the moment, the most prominent thing that's able to be released.
Right. And I mean, from working and from being a practitioner with the emotion codes, when they come up to you, do you have a sense of immediately knowing, uh, they're blocked in their knees or they're blocked in their, solar plexus, or do you get a feeling right away?
I didn't initially, but the more that I do the work, again, like I said, it's like training wheels for intuition. I did find that I began to tap in more deeply. And so it's not always a sense of being pulled to an area of the body. Sometimes I'd pick up on the emotions themselves. Other times I notice other little patterns that are kind of sticking out, or like an archetype, or I see it clairvoyantly,
Oh,
just something kind of coming forward.
yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
have you've got a lot of natural gifts, in your tool belt too. You're a natural medium, and and you have such a high level of psychic ability. So I would think that it all kind of starts, you know, doing the wave.
It does kind of blend over time. And
Yeah.
the other day I was at the fair and somebody sat down and I hadn't met him before and I heard his name in my mind before he even told me his name. I'm like, oh, Jeff. I
Wow.
didn't say it out loud. It's too bad. I should have. That would have been fantastic.
Oh, wow. That would have been fantastic. Oh
But it
my
goes to
God.
show you,
Yeah.
we all have these gifts. They're all very present. The more that we do this kind of work, the more they emerge. And that's what I love about this for clients as well.
Right.
The whole component of going through life and wanting to run away from emotions, we create so many problems like that. So even if it was just a daily practice of checking in and, okay, what do I need to be aware of today? What do I need to release? Do I
Right.
have a trapped emotion? Do I have a heart wall? Looking through the various parts of the chart and working with it.
Wow.
It
A
is
heart wall.
kind of
Yeah.
preventative in that way, and it's really helpful.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever, really gotten into this one yet, but um, is someone who is experiencing wanting to leave the planet many times in
Mhm.
a trauma where they love the people around them, they love their family. It's just they can't explain why, but they just keep the attempts going.
Yeah.
And no matter what kind of help, therapy, that they're getting,
Yeah.
so there's something trapped there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first thing in that situation that I might do is I would ask if it was their whole life or if it began at a specific point. If it was their whole life from the earliest they could remember, I would possibly be looking at, is this an inherited trapped emotion or is this an emotional resonance that they picked up? Is this
Wow.
one of the emotions they caught from someone nearby?
Wow.
As you know, when we're children from 0 to 5, we're little sponges. We're just out there absorbing everything. And so
Mm.
when we witness mom, dad, or grandma, grandpa witnessing, having a bad time, we're suspect to that. We are close in proximity. And if you're an empathic child, then of course you might possibly have absorbed that and it might not even be yours. So that's the first thing that I would look at with a client to see, okay, where does it come from? And if we didn't resolve it with emotion code, which most of the time I believe you can, I would also be curious about a heart wall. Like I was
Mm.
telling you, it's that collection of emotions that have kind of happened together. Now, trapped emotions can happen individually, they can also happen as a tiny cluster too. So, say somebody witnessed something really traumatic or terrifying, they could have multiple emotions hit at once, and it just overwhelms the system. Energetically, we get blocked. We can't move.
Right. And sometimes you're just not even aware of it,
Right.
because you've buried it deep down inside. And so, it's kind of us up to the practitioner to be a little detective and go in
Mhm.
and see where that blockage would be, and to dissolve that. Now, I would think that, as above, so below, as within, so without. But I would think that if emotion gets trapped within, within the body
Mhm.
or within the mental frequency, the mental realm, um, if you are living if you are living on property where there's trapped tragedy and
Mhm.
trauma,
Mhm.
you would be taking that in also through kind of like an osmosis kind of a thing. There's been so many people that swear, oh, I couldn't live there because I was on, Indian burial grounds um, and to tell you the truth, um, you know, I'm sure there were a lot of Indian burial grounds, but not every single place you're going to feel that. And
Mhm.
you code it and you name it, Indian burial grounds. But what what they don't understand is this, our particular, let's just say our particular country
Mhm.
has been fought over so many wars and so many imprints. And and also, if you were a soldier during that war, you
Mhm.
would be carrying a lot of that trauma through the next particular reincarnations, which
Mhm.
I always thought to myself, in between life and death,
Mhm.
don't you go through a clearing machine? I mean, it's
Yes.
like,
We'll talk about that next time. That's called Life in Between Lives within hypnosis. Yes.
'cause I'm like, don't they like clean you up and, kind of protect you
Yes.
for the next round?
So
I just
that's an interesting thing because the soul, when we incarnate, we don't bring the whole 100% of our essence. We
right.
negotiate. We bring a certain amount for what we believe we need. And then there's always a portion that stays with the divine. That's where the higher self remains. And that's why we plug into higher self and get those insights. That's
Mm,
where we're getting it from, our own soul. And some of us are mighty ambitious. And so we might actually have, parallel lives running at the same time. Or we might have energies in other places, residual.
mm,
So when it comes to something like that, that's where it gets really fascinating and interesting. The emotion code doesn't necessarily go into those aspects. Hypnosis definitely does.
mm.
With emotion code, it's more, but we can actually clear places. I've done that before. I've cleared people's pets. I've worked with children, with seniors, and they don't have to be participating in the session, just as long as they are approving of receiving the session.
Right.
Yeah, but you can clear places. So it does make for some interesting stuff to come up. It's a little bit trickier because then you're trying to be very intuitive and tuning in of, okay, when the questions change. Rather than did this happen in childhood or pre-birth, you're then asking questions of did this happen in the last century? Like, did this happen in the
Oh,
last 10 years, 20 years? Yeah. Who was involved?
yeah.
We're really expanding the mind and exploring at that point.
Right. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Michelle, Mr. Bill, we've got Vonda, we've got Leslie. I guess Maria's in there. There's a bunch of people that I can't see for some reason tonight. I can't see everyone in the chat room, so I apologize for that. But if there is anyone that is having a question, if somebody would go ahead and repeat their question to me. Maybe Mr. Bill can help me out there, or perhaps Vonda. I would love for that to happen so that we can get some of the people in the chat room, some resolution on this particular wonderful modality that. So when you finally locate something, like let's just say you were talking about they have a heart wall, and you go through and you break that or dissolve it or whatever you do, um, do they feel relief right away, or do they have to kind of get used to it, or is the shift something that needs sustainable energy? How does that work?
It's as unique as we are. I've had some clients that feel immediate relief. They all of a sudden feel the love that they weren't able to accept or to receive. I have others who it takes a day or two. The other thing is for a heart wall, when it's a bigger collection, sometimes we can't do it all at once because we are very energetic beings and you can overload the circuits and it doesn't feel good. So you
Right.
have to kind of go. So I might begin a session and I might have intentions as a practitioner to clear that whole heart wall. But if their energetic system isn't able to do it, the body just won't, it'll stop answering. You'll start getting all kinds of wonky answers that don't make sense and it'll be confusing and they'll be like, oh, the body's had enough.
Right.
Sometimes, we just need to have the client have some water or to have the practitioner be well hydrated because that can play a role. But it just goes to show you how energetic we are as beings, that hydration matters on
Yeah.
both ends when you're doing a session.
Well, water is a conduit for electrical energy. So that's exactly right. Yeah.
So I do often tell clients about processing time, and that's the time that in the next couple of days, what their body might be going through. They may feel a little more emotional, or they may feel wonderful. Either way, they need to proceed kind of mindfully, be conscious, and make a little bit of space. If memories come up, I recommend they journal about it,
Mhm.
explore it, get more meaning. I also recommend they have an Epsom salt bath and a
Yeah.
good sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, the salt. So, when you're kind of diagnosing these generational patterns, whether I mean, I've seen a huge shift in just abuse, whether it's physical or whether it's verbal or whatever all of that is. I just feel like there's a lot of generational
Mhm.
disrespect, and
Mhm.
this could be in many many forms. So if you're working, let's just say, with a daughter, and
Mhm.
she's saying, I need to clear this because I am imitating, you know,
Yeah.
my mother's behavior, and it was my grandmother's behavior. And so when you start to work on the daughter,
Mhm.
does the chain start working right away? Like the mother will feel it as well? Like
Yes.
right away? Ah,
For some people, it's within 24 hours, but usually they can pinpoint a change. So I've had some clients who've called their loved ones, double checked. Some have had loved ones deceased, and even though they were deceased, it's still cleared, and they ended up getting a message from their loved one in their dreams or later on. So yes, it goes all the way back, and it goes all the way forward, and we get to actually witness it. It's amazing.
wow.
Yeah.
There's the wonderful new things with this age of Aquarius. Um, so yeah, and Mercury is entering Aquarius on Saturday. So the thought patterns, communication, commerce, everything is going to be revving up about humanity and what's good for humanity, whether it's healing or whether it's
Yeah.
raising the frequency, eating better, whatever that would be. Also protecting humanity and bringing back the sovereignty of the soul,
Yeah.
which is, I think, going to be really a priority. The more that we are aware of the galactic explorations and the galactic travelers that we have, um, it just seems to me that we are going to all learn not how to heal ourselves, but also how to protect ourselves from any more trauma or from anything else coming in.
Right.
So when you diagnose the trauma, you dissolve the trauma. Is there something I just want to say, is there like a little energetic bandage that goes in there, or a little, protection thing that
Right.
you do?
So I personally do. It is not necessarily taught with the modality, at least not when I learned back in 2012. But I always tend to fill it with light or with Reiki just so that when you're creating a vacuum, You don't want a nice open space for something to crawl in. You always want to have it kind of sealed off and cleared. Yeah.
Right, right.
What
Um,
is fun is that people have practiced on animals and they don't understand what's happening, and yet results.
wow,
People have done it with horses, with dogs, their cats, you name it. It's
wow,
amazing. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So let's just say somebody comes up and says, I'm totally allergic to cats. And
Mm.
my daughter wants a cat. They want
Yeah.
kittens, blah, 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 blah. What do I have that makes me react to whatever the cats have so that they can, have their kittens and I don't have to walk around like a mess for the rest of my life? So
Yeah.
is that possible?
Yes. I've actually helped people with that as well. Yeah.
Wow.
Usually there are some memories that come up. If I can't get it all with the emotion code, then definitely with hypnosis. Within the body code, there is actually a concept called an idea allergy. And often that is something that has happened, that's taken place, is that they're so mentally resistant to something that they've formed an intolerance to protect themselves energetically. Right?
What?
Yeah. And
Wow.
you can clear them. So it's not like you're going to have a session and you're immediately going to go get that cat. You're still going to need a couple of days processing time. Your practitioner is going to want to double check to make sure that there's nothing else lingering, that we got it all. And then typically change, though. Yeah.
So I would think that this would be the same thing if somebody was scared of heights or, you know, scared of the ocean or
Yeah.
something, or swimming or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, we have something brought up here in the chat room I want to bring forward from Miss Vanda. And she says, I feel a lot of ancestral trauma is still connected to me, even though I've done a lot of healing work. What would you suggest?
Either you can begin to practice on yourself. The book is still out there, and you don't need to be a certified practitioner to be doing this work for yourself or for your loved ones. So you could read the book, learn the gist of muscle testing, and begin to self practice and have that intention for yourself of, I'm, body, subconscious, take me to this place where ancestral trauma is stored. Do I have anything stored? Wait for your answer, yes or no. Are there trapped emotions? Is there an energetic resonance? Is there an inherited emotion? And then you peel through it and you release everything you find, as much as the body is willing and able to tolerate that day. You don't want to overload the circuits, because if you fry them out, let me tell you, I was a very ambitious practitioner when I first started, and I would push myself very hard because I was pretty sure that I could take it. And I found out that I actually needed to have a multi-day nap after, because I had just burned them out. And it was rough. It was a little bit rough to bounce back from. So be gentle with yourself, but you can have a simple daily practice checking in for 1 to 3 emotions a day and just see what's there. And even as you're releasing, even if it doesn't feel like a lot, there are going to be shifts that happen, and it's going to start to fall into place, and you'll see it pretty quickly, and you'll see it within your loved ones too.
Yeah.
And possibly get those dreams of validation from those who've passed.
Wow. Yeah, we were, we do the same thing with feng shui. And there are very ambitious clients out there that I want to get the whole list of stuff. I want to rearrange my house. I need to get this, I need to get that all in, one day. And yeah, especially if you've had, a very hard time lately, and especially for the elderly, you have to give them increments of shifts, not more than 3 at a time, because yeah, the body just cannot handle it. And that's exactly what's happening to us, getting used to the crystalline energy, getting used to handling more light coming in and more information, more light codes that are activating a lot of um, a lot of future body technology, let's put it that way. And so, yeah, so it's the same thing. They can't give it to you all at once. Um,
Exactly.
we're kind of shallow dishes.
That's right. And if you think about a senior,
Hmm.
I mean, they've had that energy warping their system for how long? And then you're just going to pluck it out. Yeah, that's going to be a huge adjustment that needs to happen. So maybe they only release one trapped emotion that setting. And then you wait for 2 to 3 days and you come back and try again if they're still wanting to go further. Yeah.
Right. Now, when you are working on someone, um, w- we all vary in our frequency. And someone who was born perhaps a lot earlier than the practitioner is going at a slower rate. Their vibratory rate is a lot slower. Do you need to adjust your frequency in order to work on, maybe little ones that come in and they're going really fast? They were born at a very high frequency, or animals that have different frequency and different perception of time. Do you yourself have to kind of gauge that and hook into that, or does it just naturally do it?
If I was just doing straight intuitive work, I would, but with the emotion code, you don't have to. It's really beautifully simple, and actually, children have practiced. It is so simple that a child can practice,
Wow.
and it's not something that has to be done consciously. But I think it does to an extent when we set that intention, when we're sending out love, when we're wanting, you always have that little bit of care for your clients as they come in and you want the best for them. I feel like that's the energetic difference, that little bit of intention of, I want to get you the best possible results you can have today. I feel like that does it.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. So do you use your muscle testing when you go shopping?
I do. I do. Not so much these days. You're not going to catch me sway testing anymore because now it's more clairvoyant and more clairaudient for me. Or sometimes I will have something in my hand and I will just feel naturally. And it's like, oh, I don't want this, and I'll put it away. So it's a little more spontaneous these days.
So incorporating the muscle testing in everything we do, whether it's, you know, buying a house or buying a potato or whatever you're wanting to bring into your inner circle, and doing the back and forth and also the ring thing. Now, clear this up for me, because if you want it goes out, or if you wanted it you can't do it.
Yeah, I don't use that one personally, so I don't know for sure. That's why I typically enjoy using the pendulum. And when I use the pendulum, it's nice for clients too. They like that visual confirmation and they like to know that it's happening organically and it's not something just out of my mind. So they have that confirmation, that validation. Most practitioners actually use a different technique when they are working on someone else. So if you were going to see someone in person, they'd probably have you hold your arm out.
Oh,
They
this one.
Right. And then they take two fingers and they put them just lightly at the wrist bone. And then they ask the question to see if the arm remains strong or if the muscle dips.
Okay,
And if
so
it
if
dips, then that's typically the subconscious saying, nope, not for me. The body weakens in that moment.
oh, got you. Okay, yeah, I've seen that happen as well.
So,
Yes.
with that theory, I am going to guess, but I may be wrong, that if you're going with the ring and if you're going like this and it's going through easily, this stayed strong, that your answer is yes. If this is weakening, then I'm assuming it's not for you. Your subconscious is giving a no.
Okay, got it. And what is the name of the book that you had mentioned before?
So that's The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson.
Thank you. Okay.
He recently redid it, and I want to say he's got Tony Robbins on there as well, either for his foreword or as having left feedback. So that's kind of nice to have it expanding out in the world like that.
There's so many very successful um, people who are helping other people. They're, the energy exchange of money, value, whatever it is happening for them as well. They're all using cutting edge modalities. They are. They're just they're on top of it. They experimenting with it. They're using it. Joey Yap is the new young feng shui master, and he has he it's the same ancient wisdom, but he's got it all turned around in a new way, and he's just taken the East by storm, and and really reintroduced feng shui to another generation, which I think is fabulous. So, yeah. So you can pretty much introduce this to anyone of any age. You can get results, within a processing time. You can use this with animals. Why aren't we doing it like everybody doing it?
We like tangible physical things. We like to see it. And it's one of those feel it, then, it's one of those believe it, then see it kind of things. And that's a hard thing for humans. When we're on the other side or in the higher realms, that's naturally what we do. But when we're here, everything is so physical and tangible that to not be able to take a pill or consume something, we don't always understand how it works, and it has a lot of mystery around it, and that creates a lot of doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I think just to be dealing with unseen energy, I have since I've been a child, and
Yeah.
and I have to remind myself, not everybody does, not
Right.
every, not everybody does that, or sees the things, that most people cannot see. Um, but if anybody wants to get a hold of you and have a wonderful session, um, let me just tell you a little bit about how this wonderful lady helped me. My father passed away when I was 11 months old. Now, if you can remember when you were 11 months old, you got it all over me. But I did not. And um, I saw my mother as a complete mess, and my brother and sister, and we were not living within the tribe of the family. We were out of state when this happened. And my life was never the same. It was just never the same. Not only that, but I never had an active memory of my father. And through all of this, I was always, I never felt at home. I never felt thoroughly happy or satisfied, or, I was always missing a piece. It always seemed like I was missing a piece. And this beautiful lady took me back and pointed all of this out for me so that I could overcome this grief and overcome the shock and the trauma, so that I was able to move forward. And in some way, we're talking about the past so much, but in some way, I believe I moved my children forward as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because so if you had those trapped emotions within, you had your children that got passed down through DNA and all of the genetic materials. Absolutely. That's what I said. It works forward, it works backward, and we don't actually even have to think about it consciously. It just is happening. And so allowing and then just bearing witness.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed so easy at the time. It just seemed so easy at the time. But it really did solve a lot of, it aligned me, I think, is what I'm going to say.
I
And
feel like that experience has happened for a lot of clients, particularly when they come in and they're already skeptical. So they're not really looking for the benefits. And then all of a sudden they see benefits and they're like, wait a minute, where and when did this change? Where and when did this happen? And they dial it back and they're like, oh, I did try that one weird thing. might be something there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it was, yeah, it was quite quite a very calm, easy process, but the results were really there, undeniably there. And she also does many, many things. One I have to mention, she's a toe reader. Yes. You just like, I can read faces and hands. She reads toes. And talk a little bit about that.
I don't do it as often these days. And actually, it wasn't something that I inherently came out with. I was trained. When I had taken my education in school, there were complementary classes. The creator is actually C.K. Miller. And she's lovely to listen to, very wildly intelligent, free spirited woman. I'm so grateful that she made the school and that I got to take the classes. But we can actually see what's happening with the chakras. We can see what's happening with the elements within the toes. We can see archetypally what is happening. And it is an energetic blueprint for what is happening, as you said before, as within, so without. We don't have these patterns and feelings within our body and have them go unnoticed. The body responds and shows, it mirrors. And so the toes do that. They're a mirror. And so you can just be having one of those thoughts of, oh my God, my abundance is in the toilet today. And, things are not where I want them to be. And wouldn't you know it, you're probably going to stub your toe. I bet it'll be the pinky toe because that is your abundance toe. And
Wow.
so when you're walking around with a blemish on the toe that is, inflamed, it is because your wallet is hurting.
I've broken mine both of mine so many times.
Oh my
So
goodness.
many times.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, she's just a treasure trove of wonderful services and gifts that she offers. I highly recommend that you make her your new best friend. And how can they get a hold of you, Amanda?
Thank you so much. My website is healingbeyondtrauma.com. And you might not see all of my services listed, and that's because I like to have my dilettante nature play. So just book a consult, and whatever you're interested in, I'm happy to explore.
Perfect. Perfect. I just think that for some odd reason, when I took feng shui, it was 1998. That's how old I am. But I thought, oh, this is going to blend perfectly with real estate and everything else that I was, on my way to do. And no one picked up on it. And I taught classes on it, and I taught at Keller Williams, and I taught, at many, many places, um, a lot of the board of realtors and things. And they were just like, oh, well, if I ever have an Asian client, this might come up. And now, I mean, now everybody knows,
Yeah.
you don't sit with your back to the door. I mean, everybody knows that. So it's I love that it's coming back around and really big. And I feel like emotion code's the same way. You know,
Yeah. Again, it's the hypnotist in me that's so biased. But as I look at so many modalities now, I can't help but see the subconscious mind brought in through all of them and light elements of trance. When you look at Reiki, of course, your client's getting relaxed, they're going into trance. The subconscious mind is going to come through when we're working with the emotion code, whether it is the client doing it for themselves or I'm taking somebody through, subconscious is connected, it's coming through. I feel like that really is the main vein. Yeah.
the main vein. That is a good title.
You're
What's
welcome to it.
okay,
One of
everybody
my
out
books are already other things.
there. Oh, that's awesome. Well, the subconscious and the conscious, it's kind of like, wow, mainstream now, right? I mean,
You'd be
getting
surprised.
there.
There are some people who still don't understand that language.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm guilty of shop talk all the time. So you're always
Yeah.
welcome to pause me and say, "What is that?"
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of technology coming down the pike. It is well, this year is sort of what I like to call a bridge year. It's the last year of the earth element, and the number 8, and now we're going to be going into the number 9, and it's going to be the next 20 years, but it's going to be the fire element. What feeds fire? Wood. Wood is going to be extremely um, high commodity. You'll be seeing that in the future. But what's going to be happening is, this fire element. It relates to inspiration, enthusiasm, what sparks you, but also rockets, right? I mean, we've been seeing it happen, and and having all of this technology coming down to us, we will be able to literally see these different inventions that can connect to the subconscious. So we can see it. It's a visual, in other
Yeah.
words. We'll be able to use other forms of energy we don't even know about yet.
Right.
So I'm really, really excited about the future. I'm excited about where we can go as practitioners, and in the foundation that we've built, right, so far, and
Mhm.
how we are going to be able to apply all of that knowledge coming up into when the technology hits. It's going to be really fun, really fun. Um, if any of you want to explore this more, there's no better teacher than Amanda. She makes things precise, fun, but she just answers any question that you want, like nothing stupid.
Nothing phases me.
No, and you can ask her anything, and she's right there with you, and her heart does not have a wall around it. That's for sure, and she's just quite lovely. So, if you want to get a hold of her, I highly recommend her. And there's some projects maybe you and I can cross together and kind of work on. I mean, I would love to do that. Uh,
Absolutely.
Mr. Bill says you don't want to read my toes. He does have some very questionable toes.
It's really hard not to read my spouse's toes. I'm not gonna lie, knowing what I know, and sometimes you just, you cross paths in the kitchen barefoot, and I can't help but look down. And I don't mean to put him on the spot, but I'm like, oh, hey, what's happening with you? Particularly with your thoughts. Are you feeling okay? You can't help it. I mean,
Right, right. Well, and then when you think about your feet's
right.
your grounding tool, and the places that you walk into or the land you walk on, and everybody says, "Oh, well, take your shoes off and do some, a walk about grounding with your bare feet." And it really kind of brings you into, wow, where have I been? I mean, I've been on public transportation and, you know, all of this other stuff. And so it's your grounding tool. And we don't even look at it that way at all. And are we really supporting? Are we wearing shoes that support us, or maybe challenge us a little bit, in high heels and,
Yeah.
yeah.
And where it's rubbing you the wrong way matters.
No,
When people wear toe rings, I'm always really fascinated with that as well, because the toe that they're putting it on has significance. If the toe ring is on there and it's very tight, they are bottling some of that energy. What might they be doing that for? So a
oh,
lot of people put it on that toe right after your big toe, the one to the right. A lot of people put it on that toe. That toe is your communication. That is your air toe. You don't want to be bottlenecking that one, because
wow.
if you can't express it, it's all going to stay right here in your thoughts.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Mhm.
We wanna be circulating and flowing really freely.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. So what happens if, like I have pierced ears and stuff. What happens
Yes.
with that?
Yes, I also do
Is
auricular therapy.
that
And yes, your piercings matter. So the typical piercing that we get right here, that's actually the point of the third eye. If you know that and you're going to be working with clients, choose your earrings wisely. You might choose gold because you want to have truth coming through. Or I like to use crystals. If I know that I'm going to be doing some spiritual coaching, I want spirit to be there with me. I might wear some charoite. I might bring in some amethyst. If I'm doing third eye clairvoyant work, I will have some labradorite. And if I'm having a day off, I will just enjoy some preonite or some peridot just for me, for my own joy.
Wow. Awesome.
Well, the whole body can be seen on the ears. And
I have
so
pearls.
sometimes
I have
just a
pearls.
nice, gentle, relaxing move around can do so much.
Wow.
So much.
Wow. And what happens when they, pierce up here?
So up towards the top, we would be getting towards the spine and the back. So
Wow.
if they're putting it right about here, that is that lumbar area. That's kind of an interesting place to be putting that. Are they feeling too much pressure? Are they looking for some structure, some support? Is there too much energy there? Are they wanting to let some of it out?
Wow.
Lower chakra is building up.
Wow. Okay. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
What about the nose?
Yeah, no, you're out of luck there. You finally found one I don't know anything about. I will say, if they're frequently touching their nose, is it the Pinocchio touch? Are they telling the truth?
Well, the nose usually indicates your heart. So that's the
Oh,
thing about
interesting.
that. Yeah. Yeah, it
Okay.
usually indicates the heart. So, but that's kind of fun. Well, hey, everybody, thanks so much for coming along with us this evening and for meeting my friend Amanda. I hope she's your new best friend soon. And, introduce yourself at least to muscle testing, and you'll know. Um, you'll get some clarity right away on that, right?
And
Yeah.
even if you don't begin with muscle testing, feel your emotions, journal about them, talk to them. Anybody can do that. It goes a long way.
Exactly. And please know you're never alone. You're never alone. We're here to help, and so are your guides, your angels, your tribe. And until next time, may the angels protect you and guide you. Thank you, Amanda. Good night, everyone.